I pulled into the driveway slower than usual, headlights gliding across the familiar bricks that hadn't changed since I was a teenager, sneaking back past curfew. The porch light was on, bright as always, but tonight it felt staged, like someone had set the scene for something more than dinner. The hydrangeas were trimmed too neatly. The air outside was too quiet, not calm, quiet like a waiting room before bad news. When I stepped inside, my mother greeted me with a smile just a bit too wide. She held her arms open as if we hadn't seen each other last week. "Sweetheart, you made it. Take your shoes off. Serena's already here." I nodded, setting my bag down. My father offered a handshake, not a hug. Firm grip, forced warmth. "Glad you could join us, Vanner," he said, like I was a guest. I found Serena in the dining room, already seated, swirling her wine like she owned the place. She was wearing something too formal for a Sunday dinner, one of those structured blazers that made her look like she'd stepped out of a business podcast. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Hey, little sis, big night, huh?" The table was set with the good china, crystal glasses, linen napkins folded like hotel service, a towering floral centerpiece that blocked half the table. My seat was set across from Serena, a folder half hidden under the napkin to my right. My mother hummed while arranging the rolls. "We thought we'd do something special tonight," she said, smoothing the tablecloth for the third time. I didn't say anything. I just smiled, nodded, and took my seat. That's what I'd been taught, to keep the peace, to make space for their version of togetherness. Dinner started light, the usual chatter. Dad asked about the clinic. Mom asked if I was still doing all those long hours. Serena, in her way, leaned in with a too casual remark. "With how packed your calendar is, you should really think about expanding. Or at least upgrading that cramped waiting room. I mean, it's adorable, but..." I let her words hang. My clinic had grown by 40% last quarter. We were booked months out, but sure, adorable. I said nothing. Dad cleared his throat, set down his fork. "Your mother and I wanted to talk to you about the clinic," he said, tone shifting. "You've done well, really well, and we think it's time to consider the future." "Here it comes." He reached for the folder next to me and slid it over. "We think Healing Hands should be a family business, formally." I didn't move. Serena took it from his hand instead, opened it with a flourish like she was presenting an award. "We put together a proposal," she said brightly. "I'd come in as co-founder, head of brand and outreach, the face of the clinic." She actually used air quotes. "You'd handle the medical side, of course," she continued. "But with my media background, we could go regional, maybe national. We'd split profits, say 70-30. You keep majority. This isn't about control, it's about alignment." I looked at the folder, then at Serena, then back at the untouched roast on my plate. "Who wrote this?" I asked, quietly. Dad leaned forward. "We did. Just trying to secure your future, sweetheart." Then came the kicker. Serena pulled out a printed magazine mock-up from her purse. "Oh, and we're pitching this to Charlotte Monthly. I'm thinking cover story." I looked at the title. Bennett Sisters Bring Healing Home. On the front, Serena stood in front of my clinic, oversized scissors in hand, the ribbon fluttering around her. I recognized the wall behind her. Recognized the lettering I paid for. I wasn't in the picture, not cropped on the side, not even in the background. Gone. I picked up the photo, stared at it for longer than I should have. My fingers found the edges, just enough to fold it without creasing. I placed it back on the table. "Interesting framing," I said. My mother beamed. "Doesn't she look confident?" I didn't answer. The rest of the dinner passed in forced laughter and awkward silences. I nodded when I had to, didn't argue, didn't defend myself. They didn't leave space for that. In my head, I saw a slideshow of other moments, birthdays skipped, graduation with an empty seat in the crowd, the day I opened Healing Hands and cut the ribbon myself because no one else had shown up. I remembered when family stopped being a source of comfort and became a liability I had to manage. Not every silence is surrender. Sometimes it's strategy. I folded the article, closed the folder, pushed it back across the table. "I'll think about it," I said. Serena winked like she'd won. I stood, No hugs, no goodbyes. As I walked out, I heard her call behind me. "Let's talk more soon, business partner." Then my mother's voice, softer. "Don't forget who believed in you first." The night was cooler than when I'd arrived. I reached my car, unlocked it, but didn't get in right away. I pulled out the article again. The image, looked closer. In the corner, just barely visible behind the ribbon, was my hand, holding the scissors. Funny, I don't remember founding my clinic with ghosts. Thursday afternoon, just before 5, my phone buzzed with a text from Serena. "Hope you can make it tonight. Dad's reserved a room at the club." No punctuation, no context, no invitation, just expectation. I stared at the screen for a second too long, then pocketed it without responding. I hadn't heard a word about a dinner, no heads up, no mention of celebrating anything. But now they were hosting a formal event in my name, and I was only informed because it would have looked bad if I didn't show. By 6:30, I was standing under the polished canopy of the country club entrance, suit jacket pressed, face unreadable. The valet opened my door with a nod, not a smile. A greeter led me through the hall toward the private dining room. Dorian met me at the door, wineglass already in hand. "There she is," he said too loudly. "The reason we're all here. Our legacy in the making." I shook his hand, said nothing. Inside, the room gleamed with southern restraint. White linen, gold trim, waitstaff gliding like ghosts between tables. I saw familiar faces from old family photos, church friends, Dorian's colleagues, even the orthodontist who once called me resilient for not complaining when I paid in cash. Serena stood near the head of the table, swirling champagne like a lifestyle blogger. She wore a blazer again, coral red, bold enough to distract, tight enough to pretend it was confidence. She raised her glass toward me as I approached. "About time, superstar," she said. "We were beginning to think you'd stand up your own party." I offered a half smile. Sat down. The room quieted. By the time the appetizers arrived, Dorian was standing again, fork tapping his glass. "Thank you all for being here," he said, voice rich, slow, soaked in charm. "It's not every day we get to celebrate success that started in our own living room." I stiffened slightly. "We always believed," he continued, "that building something that lasts means passing it down, not just with money, but with meaning." The guests clapped politely. I nodded like I hadn't heard it rehearsed my whole life. Then the slideshow began. At first, it was harmless. A few childhood pictures, me in overalls, Serena in a tutu, our parents on vacation, a snapshot from my college graduation. Then it shifted. Photos of the clinic. Healing hands. Except, something was missing. Me. No mention of the founder. No title slides. The screen read only, "The Bennett Family Clinic." One picture showed Serena outside the building, waving to patients. Another with her shaking hands at a health fair I had organized, alone. My name didn't come up once. Serena stood and smiled, cueing the next slide. "I'm thrilled to share," she began, "that we're planning to expand Healing Hands into a full community wellness initiative. This is just the beginning." She went on about vision, outreach, next-generation care. Like I was a technician, not the owner. I sat still. No one looked at me directly, except for the waiter asking if I wanted another glass of water. I nodded and drank slowly. Dessert came, plates cleared. Then Dorian stood again, holding a folder. "We're so proud," he said, "but more than that, we want to help. We believe it's time to structure this formally." He handed the folder to me across the table, smooth and casual like passing the salt. Inside, I could already tell. Legal papers, typed, signed, dated. They wanted 35%. "Just a small stake," Serena chimed in. "To keep everything aligned. Shared vision, you know?" She leaned closer. "We don't want to control anything. We just want to feel included." I didn't open the folder. "This isn't a pitch," I said, meeting both of their eyes. "It's a performance." And I was tired of pretending I hadn't seen the curtain. I thanked them, calm, neutral, stood up before the table could trap me. In the parking lot, I didn't cry, didn't rage. I leaned against the car door, phone in hand, fingers resting on the screen without typing. Every bill, every loan, every hour. They celebrated me, without including me. That wasn't a dinner. That was a takeover disguised as toast. I opened a message to Elias. Need to pull old email chains. Also, start prepping internal audit. Above me, the sky was blank. No stars, no clouds. I stared into it like it owed me something. They're not coming for my clinic, I whispered, so quiet it sounded like breathing. They're coming for my spine. I got home around 10:40 that night. I remember the time because I stood in the doorway a moment too long, keys still in my hand, trying to decide if I should lock the door behind me or just drop everything and sit in the dark. Instead, I walked to the kitchen, flipped on the overhead light, and set the envelope from the dinner down on the counter. The same one Serena slid toward me like she was offering a gift, not a trap. I made a sandwich I didn't want, took one bite, left the rest on the plate. Then I opened it. Inside weren't just the expected legal docs. There were copies of financials, press materials, and a stack of old family documents, insurance records, school letters, photos, stuff I hadn't seen in years. One paper stopped me cold. It was a scanned insurance summary from 1996. Dorian Jr. and Serena, both listed as covered dependents under the family policy. No mention of me. I checked it 3 times. Searched for my name on the back, in the margins, in the coverage notes. Nothing. I sat down with the paper under the light. It trembled slightly in my hand, not because I was crying, but because my body couldn't decide if it should laugh. I wasn't covered, because I wasn't considered an investment. That's when I started pulling everything. Receipts, report cards, letters from FAFSA, my first student loan agreement. I even dug out a box from the closet labeled Clinic Pre-Launch and went through every receipt from those early years. Printer ink, folding chairs, laminate signs, lease copies, all paid out of pocket. Piece by piece, the past got loud, and the silence felt like betrayal on paper. I remembered the time I had strep throat at 9. Couldn't swallow. Fever ran for 3 days. Mom said, "Just sleep it off, honey. You're strong." Serena got urgent care the same winter for a sore wrist. There was the year they paid for braces for both my siblings. Said my teeth weren't too bad, when I asked. I remembered the blue inhaler I kept hidden in my college dorm drawer. Bought it with cafeteria wages, no prescription, just cash at a student pharmacy. These weren't just moments. They were patterns, systemic. "You were always the tough one," my mother said once. "You didn't need as much." I believed that, wore it like a badge. Told myself being low maintenance was a strength. Turns out, it was a budget decision. When people ignore you long enough, you start calling it independence. You make up reasons for why you're left out so it doesn't sting as much. I sat in my home office and wiped off the whiteboard. Drew a line down the middle. Left column. Scholarships I earned, shifts I worked, money I sent home. Right column. Times I asked for help. It stayed mostly blank. Not because I didn't need anything, but because I learned not to ask. I wrote it all out, year by year, school to school, loan to loan. I didn't keep records out of spite. I kept them because when you grow up without anyone backing you, documentation is all you have. They didn't help me because they didn't expect me to succeed. I said it out loud. The room didn't argue. They tolerated me. Then they needed me. I opened a message window to Elias. Started typing. "Do you think they ever saw me?" Deleted it. He didn't need that kind of question dropped in his lap at midnight. The next morning, just after 8, I got an email from a friend I hadn't talked to in years. She works in state health archives. Weeks ago, I had casually asked her to look up any health coverage logs tied to my social. She wrote back with one line, "No record until you self-enrolled at 18. That was it. I sat in the kitchen again, reading it 3 times, didn't move, didn't breathe deeply. There wasn't any shock left in me. They didn't forget me. They excluded me. I wrote it in my journal. One line, bold ink. No loops, no rants, just fact. That was the night I stopped asking myself if I was being dramatic. I boxed up the folder, labeled it pre-defense package, pulled up a checklist on my laptop. Legal counsel, media protection, contingency funds, timeline documentation, reputation risk assessment, no dramatic music, No cinematic thunder. Just the quiet kind of focus that comes when you stop trying to earn love that never existed. I opened the drawer where I kept my clinic license, the very first one, the one signed when I still thought opening a practice would mean something to them. I traced the raised seal with my finger. It still held. Unlike some people, they built a legacy of erasure. I'm building records. I got to the clinic earlier than usual. No music, no coffee stop, just silence and the hum of my own breathing. I wanted to get ahead of the patient charts, but mostly I just didn't want to run into anyone yet. My hands were still stiff from gripping the steering wheel too long. Elias was already there, hunched over his desk. He didn't look up right away, which meant something was wrong. "There's something I think you should see," he said, finally glancing my way. He turned his screen toward me. A community Facebook group post. It featured an elderly patient I'd worked with for months, a woman who couldn't stand without bracing herself against the wall when she first came in. Now she was dancing at church again. The testimonial under her photo was glowing. It sounded genuine, until it wasn't. "They said she got better because of the Bennett family's mission to heal," Elias said quietly. The quote was real. Her words had heart. But the framing? The spin. That was Serena. My name wasn't mentioned once. I remembered staying 3 nights past closing, rearranging her entire care plan from scratch when her previous clinic had misdiagnosed her. I remembered holding her hand during her first successful step without pain, but now it was just the Bennett family. Not healing hands. Not me. I didn't say anything, just walked into my office and closed the door behind me. Later that day, between clients, I opened my laptop, scrolled through the clinic's social mentions. And there it was, a sponsored post from Dorian himself. "From father to founder, supporting your child's vision." He claimed he'd taken out loans to help me become who I am, that he mortgaged comfort for my dreams. I leaned back. That was a lie. Those loans were in my name. I still remembered the forms, the gut-turning interest rates, and I remembered what they actually paid for. Serena's first car. My mom's dental surgery. A vacation to New Orleans labeled as a family health retreat. I pulled up an old spreadsheet from grad school. It tracked every dollar I sent home while surviving on frozen burritos and powdered coffee. Some debts aren't measured in dollars. They're weighed in silence. I printed the post, folded it once, slid it into a drawer with my name engraved on the handle. I didn't cry. I wasn't angry. I was cataloging. That night, Elias stopped by my office again. He looked tired. Not physically, ethically. "She asked me," he said. "Serena. She asked if I'd consider helping her rebrand the clinic." I stayed quiet. "She said I could be director of operations, bigger salary, public-facing role. Just had to give some quotes about the family's legacy." He didn't take it, said no. But the fact that she asked, that she assumed he might be buyable. "She's going to keep trying," he said. "I know." I didn't thank him. Instead, I pulled out a check, his first bonus from our best quarter last year, and handed it back to him. He didn't refuse it. Later, I opened my digital notes. Created a new entry. Narrative distortion begins. Phase 2 initiated. Sometime after 9, when the building was quiet again, I sat back down and played old voicemail messages from patients. Some still called it the Bennett Center. I wasn't even mad, just curious. When exactly had the name changed in people's minds? I opened a browser, checked my alerts. There it was. Serena had registered a domain. BennettHealing.org. 3 months ago. She was moving fast. I didn't feel rage, not even bitterness. Just calm. A kind of quiet that comes right before a chess move. When people rewrite your history, they think they're erasing your future. What they don't know is, I've been saving the drafts. I opened a new video file, sat in front of the lens, pressed record. The video wasn't for the public. It was for the lawyers. If they want the narrative, they'll get the receipts too. It was early, Not sunrise early, but that in-between hour when your body still feels the weight of sleep and your mind hasn't decided who it is yet. I was half-dressed, water running in the kitchen, when I heard the knock. Soft. Intentional. Not enough to alarm, just enough to linger. There wasn't a text. No call. Just a small, padded envelope left outside my door. The handwriting on it was familiar. Cursive with a slight slant, like someone learned it off recipe cards and never updated the style. I brought it in, set it on the counter, poured myself coffee I didn't really want. Let the envelope sit there for another 5 minutes before I opened it. Inside, a single photograph, glossy, faded around the corners. Me, at 6 years old, holding Serena's hand as she took her first step on the lawn. I was smiling. She wasn't steady yet. My left knee had a band-aid. On the back, a note written in blue ink. You used to protect her. I hope you haven't forgotten how. Linda. I stood there staring at it, not blinking, not angry, just cold. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't love. It was a trigger disguised as a memory. A weapon dressed up like a hug. I placed the photo on the kitchen table, face down, and walked away. The problem with old pictures is they make you remember the lie before the truth. I knew that day, knew it better than they thought I would. I remembered the sweater, itchy as hell. I remembered being told not to fall because I'd ruined Serena's big moment. I didn't remember the photo being taken, but I remembered what came after. Dorian told me to move so they could get a better shot of her alone. No pat on the back. Just, okay, bud, step aside. Funny thing about pride, they only handed it out when they could crop me out later. I pulled my phone out and texted Elias. Full review of all online media, patient stories, testimonials. Archive it all until further notice. He replied within a minute. Understood. By that afternoon, I got another message. This one from Linda. Dinner tonight, just us, let's talk. No explanation, no apology, just a calendar invite from someone who used to feed me out of obligation. For a second, I almost replied. Habit does that. Makes you confuse curiosity with compassion. Makes you think maybe this time it won't be a trap. Then I remembered what Elias said last week when I told him they'd invited me back in. If someone only reaches for you when they want something, that's not love. That's a business model. I opened the message, typed out, I'm not available, maybe next week. My thumb hovered over send. Then I erased it, wrote something else. Let's keep things professional. Email me through the clinic. I hit send, stared at the screen, felt my lungs fill for the first time all day. Later that night, I sat at the table again. The photo was still there, folded just once. This time I didn't flinch. I picked it up, placed it in a file folder I labeled Emotional Transactions. I wasn't mad anymore. I wasn't sad either. I was done paying rent in a family I didn't live in anymore. You can still love someone you never want to see again. That line wasn't poetic. It was just accurate. I opened a blank document, started writing the new policy for family services at the clinic. No treatments without written consent. No discounts unless reviewed by the board. No reference letters without disclosure paperwork signed and time-stamped. Not walls, just windows, with locks. The next morning, I got another envelope. This one typed, addressed to me directly. A formal letter from Dorian requesting urgent family mediation. No mention of the photo, no acknowledgement of the message I sent. Just another paper trail in a pile of controlled narratives. I didn't open it. Just filed it under future leverage and moved on. In my planner, under Saturday evening, I wrote, did not attend, did not explain, still sleeping well. If silence is their language, I've finally become fluent. Monday morning moved slow. My hands didn't quite listen to my brain, and even the lights in the clinic felt too bright, like they'd been turned up half a notch. I hadn't slept much. My thoughts had started arranging themselves like case files, labeled, dated, dangerous. Elias knocked on my door just as I was finishing the intake notes from the weekend. Got something weird, he said, holding out a printed email. I took it, read it once, then again slower. Thank you for confirming the launch, it said. The 6-month campaign begins this Friday. We'll be using the asset bank your team provided, and we've tagged your personal account for boosted engagement. Below the signature was my name. Typed, not signed. The font didn't match anything I'd ever used. The spacing was wrong. The wording even worse. Our brand identity will reflect Healing Hands' alignment with the Bennett family legacy. I didn't need to guess. Was it Serena? I asked. Flat. Elias nodded. She CC'd me on a few things last week. I didn't think she'd actually go through with it. I stood, walked to my desktop, pulled up our clinic authorization logs. Nothing. No formal request, no flagged uploads, no clearance given. I wrote to the agency myself, politely, calmly, not tipping my hand. Would you kindly forward the signed agreement for our internal records? Please include metadata, for compliance. I didn't need to be angry. They'd done it for me. That evening, after hours, Elias knocked again. This time, he didn't speak, just set his phone on my desk and hit play. A TikTok video. Already a few thousand views in, Serena. In my clinic. Day in the life of a health entrepreneur, she was saying. Running the Bennett health movement, where community comes first. She panned the camera over the lobby, over my treatment tables, over two of my staff on lunch break, blurred but still recognizable. She ended the video standing in front of the front desk, smiling like it was hers. And of course, big thanks to my sister, the medical genius behind our vision. Not the founder, not the owner, the assistant. The comments lit up. Such a powerful woman. We love a legacy business. Your family built something special. I scrolled quietly. Didn't blink. Didn't say anything. Then I closed the app and turned off the phone. I opened my inbox and typed the subject line. Immediate action required. Brand protection. To legal counsel, I listed my demands. Cease and desist drafted and delivered by morning. Retroactive contract review on all external media engagements. Lock down external digital access. Revoke any shared folders. I stared at the screen before hitting send. They're not lying to destroy me, I said aloud. They're lying to inherit what they never built. Elias offered to issue a public correction. A statement, some damage control. No, I said. Let them think I'm quiet. It makes the impact hit harder when I speak. The next day, I called the agency, pretending to be my own assistant, said I needed backup copies of all campaign files for archiving. They were happy to help, sent everything. I combed through it, logos, testimonials, even patient faces, real names, real quotes, my patients, no permissions filed, no release forms, legal violation on top of personal betrayal. I printed the main contract, took out a red pen, circled the fake signature. Then I wrote underneath, "This is not mine, but the consequences will be." I didn't file it in a drawer with the others. I filed it in the drawer marked Phase 2, fireproof, numbered, ready. That night, I posted one line on my LinkedIn. Healing Hands remains independently owned and operated. Any future statements will come directly from this page. No hashtags, no tags, no names, just truth and boundary. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Serena. I didn't answer, but now she knows I know. Tuesday started quiet, the kind of quiet you get right before a summer storm. Still, heavy, expecting something to give. Around 9:17 a.m., a notification slid across my screen. Healing Hands Legacy, now live. Attached was a press release link. Brand monitoring software picked it up before Google Alerts had a chance. I clicked, new logo, same palette, same serif font, same slogan, with 2 words swapped out, founded by the Bennett family. 20 years of family-led therapy innovation. I didn't blink. I didn't click away. I took a screenshot. Then another. Then I pulled up the domain registration records, registered under Dorian's name. They'd used my name, my reputation, my work, and just rewrote the byline. I texted my attorney. We're going to need more ink. By noon, I'd already filed the IP violation, sent the cease and desist. Legal was moving fast, but damage like that wasn't legal first. It was emotional, strategic, public, and they weren't done. Just after lunch, Elias knocked. His face didn't match his usual calm. "We need to talk," he said. "Something's off in the back-end logs." He pulled up admin access records. We scanned through timestamps together, comparing employee credentials with office camera feeds. That's when we found it. Miles, former front desk temp, fired last year for unprofessional conduct. He'd re-accessed the system 2 weeks ago using a badge that had been deactivated. The logs showed downloads, patient feedback forms, client outcome data, archived intake summaries. I leaned in closer. Elias opened a folder from the server and played a file. Audio only. Serena's voice. "Just grab what you can. He never checks that old drive anyway. You'll be fine." I sat back in my chair and stared at the ceiling for a moment. "They think I don't check," I said. "That's my favorite kind of war." I scheduled an emergency board meeting for 3:00 p.m. Same day. No delays. Inside the boardroom, I laid out the printouts one by one. Elias beside me, 2 of our medical investors across the table. No small talk. Here's what they've launched, here's who they used, here's who leaked it, here's what they stole. Facts only. No flinching, no apology. I proposed 3 actions. Reinforce our trademarks, domestic and international. Lock down internal access. No exceptions. Delay public response. Let them hang themselves on the rope they think I don't see. The vote passed unanimously. Before we left, Elias handed me a USB drive. "All of it," he said, "just in case they lie again." I didn't thank him, just nodded. By evening, the sun dipped behind the windows of my office as I uploaded every file into a secure legal archive. Patient names removed, dated, categorized, documented. I labeled a second drive, in case they push again. Then I opened a memo to my internal team. No comment to media. Let them cook their own stories without ingredients. After closing the file, I turned to the photo wall behind me. 1 frame left, a family picture from 15 years ago. I took it down, quietly. No ceremony. In its place, I pinned a black and white printout of the clinic's original business license, the seal still visible through the paper. "I used to want peace," I said to the empty room. "Now I just want paper trails." They came for the name. I built the name, and now they'll spell it in court. The morning started with an envelope. Not a knock, not a phone call. Just a silent courier who dropped it off at my lawyer's office. Inside, a lawsuit. Filed by Dorian's attorney. On official letterhead, sealed, stamped, and written with the kind of confidence only men like him possess. Unjust enrichment. That was the headline. A claim that my success had been built on the back of family support and emotional labor. I sat across from my attorney, flipping through the pages like I was reading a secondhand novel. Every accusation was paper-thin but sharp in tone. Lines like, "The plaintiff played an instrumental role in the defendant's upbringing, creating an environment of encouragement that facilitated the formation of healing hands." They weren't trying to win. They were trying to stall until I broke. I looked up, handed the file back. "Let's prep the counter," I said. "Receipts only, no speeches." My attorney nodded. I walked out and went straight home. No detour. No music. By noon, I had the pre-defense package spread across my kitchen table. Everything dated. Everything stored. I pulled up folders. Voicemail audio files, screenshots of articles Serena had altered to replace my name with hers, text logs showing unpaid family loans. Then the spreadsheet, the one I made in grad school on a hand-me-down laptop with a cracked corner. Each cell tracked where my money went when I had no money to give. A dental surgery. A car. Serena's relocation fund. I'd been bleeding interest for years, and they were still trying to draw more. I updated my counsel. Don't fight to prove they lied. Fight to show I never needed them. Then I did something else. Without warning or conversation, I moved all clinic administrative rights into a holding entity. No announcement. No memo. No warning. This isn't revenge. It's audit. And it felt like air. Later that afternoon, Linda did what Linda does best. She cried for an audience. A 3-minute video hit local Facebook feeds. Title, "When Your Own Child Leaves You Behind." She used old baby photos, clips of birthday cakes, background music from a free YouTube library. She cried on cue. I gave everything to her. I loved her more than she'll ever know, and now she treats us like strangers. The comments flooded in. Sympathy, outrage, confusion. I didn't respond. I sent a cease and desist to her inbox through legal channels. Quiet, direct. Meanwhile, my assistant filtered calls, reporters, friends, old neighbors, some furious, some proud, some just curious. I kept my head down, eyes forward, not because I was ashamed, because I was ready. That evening, I sat across from two representatives of a national medical network. Their offer had been on the table for weeks. They'd seen the numbers. They'd seen the outcome reports. They wanted the clinic. All of it. And I sold it. 97 million showers. Final contract included no family access, full ownership transfer, NDA on all sale terms, permanent removal of any legacy claims tied to the Bennett name. Dorian found out through email. Tried calling the buyers directly. I got the alert. Flagged attempt at unauthorized contact. Blocked. I smiled. I wasn't selling the clinic. I was selling their last chance to rewrite my name. After the meeting, I went to the rooftop garden behind my building. Small, quiet, just enough space to breathe. The sun was almost gone. The city hadn't noticed. But I had. That night, the final wire hit the account. I didn't celebrate. I opened the fireproof drawer, took out the original Healing Hands license, placed it inside a new frame, set it next to a single item, the only thing left from the wall that used to be covered in family photos. A wall now bare. I whispered. I asked for respect. They gave me lawsuits. So I gave them paper. They underestimated how much silence weighs in court. The envelope was unmarked. No name, no sender, just sitting in my mailbox like it belonged there. I opened it slowly, more from habit than curiosity. Inside was a card. No branding, no stamp, just a folded sheet of cream paper with handwriting I didn't recognize at first. Thank you, it began. I kept reading. It was from a patient I'd treated months ago, pro bono. An older woman who came in with a walker, stubborn as hell, and left with a cane and attitude. You didn't just fix my knee, she wrote. You reminded me I wasn't invisible. No ask, no favor, just words. Real ones. I sat with it a while, read it again, then a third time. Then I walked to the back office, opened the fireproof drawer, and placed it beside the original Healing Hands license, framed, intact, the only things in that drawer not touched by conflict. That one letter did more for me than 100 phone calls from my so-called family. Justice didn't need applause, it just needed to land. The next morning, a small correction appeared in the corner of the local newsletter, page 6, under obituaries and town events. Zara's byline. She retracted the article from 3 months prior, the one where she'd named Serena the public face of the Bennett family practice. She clarified ownership, admitted her source was not adequately verified, and thanked a trusted colleague for providing clarity. No drama, no spin, just truth in fine print. I didn't call her. Didn't need to. Sometimes the loudest justice comes on the last page. Later that week, a courier rang my door. Another envelope. No handwriting this time. Typed, clinical. Inside was a check for $2,000. Memo line. For everything. No note, no explanation. I didn't hesitate. I deposited it into the Community Recovery Fund, a nonprofit I'd been quietly supporting for years. Used my clinic's routing number. Made the donation anonymous. Then I scanned the receipt. Uploaded it into a new folder. Legacy, corrected. They want to forget. I'm choosing to remember, just not the way they hoped. The next day, I walked through the clinic one last time. Not to inspect, not to supervise, just to feel the air. One of the younger therapists was setting up in room 4, arranging resistance bands by color. You'll want to keep the green ones handy, I said. They look weak, but they build better habits. She smiled, unsure if I was joking. I wasn't. In the hallway, a patient waved. I waved back, but I didn't stop. I knew when to step aside now. Back in my office, I opened my journal. Wrote one line. I used to believe healing meant fixing. Now I know. It means choosing what not to carry anymore. On Sunday, I met Zara at a rooftop cafe. Weather was kind, the kind that pretends fall will last longer than it ever does in Charlotte. She wore sunglasses she didn't need and carried 2 coffees. Mine was already correct. "Thanks for trusting me again," she said. "I didn't do it for you," I replied. "I did it for the record." We sat for a while, talked about everything except what happened. That kind of silence is what survivors speak. Then the server brought napkins, folded like maple leaves. I smiled, smoothed it out with 2 fingers. Some things folded out of habit don't have to be unfolded again.